Welcome into NBA Now, live here on Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. No matter where you're watching or how you're watching, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. The Chat Sports crew behind the scenes, producer Jack Lauderay, also making this show possible. And on today's show, so much to get to. Latest NBA news and rumors, NBA mock draft. Is Jabari Smith going to go number one out of Auburn to the Orlando Magic? We'll get you caught up on the Lakers head coaching search, and we'll be answering all of your questions. We'll get the official show started in about 10 minutes, but first, Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals taking place tonight in South Beach from Miami. Who you got in a pivotal game in this series? Boston Celtics, who took Game 4 at TD Garden, or are you going with the Miami Heat, as these two teams have been riding the seesaw, going back and forth in what has been an entertaining series with a lot of blowouts? BOS for the Boston Celtics, MIA for the Miami Heat. Get your predictions in for tonight's game, and I'll give you some shout-outs in the comment section. Ava, Boston. Brendan, Miami. Clayton Lockhart, what it do, Chase? Just smash that like button. Thank you, my guy. Levante Rogers, Boston. L2 Clouds, KD to Chicago. Richard Lee, Boston. Trazewell, Boston. L2, Miami. Richard, Boston. 30 Racks, Boston. The Heat are too banged up. I happen to agree with you. We'll see what happens with Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero. Samuel Weber, Boston. Pro Football and Basketball, Miami. Gavin Den. Suns are going to hold DeAndre Ayton until a trade. They can't deny emergence or emergency. What'd you mean to say there? Let me know. King Malik, Boston. Maria, Boston as well. So from the Eastern Conference Finals, which is deadlocked at 2-2 to the Western Conference Finals, as that series was able to get extended to Game 5, as the Dallas Mavericks, even though there was a rain delay at American Airlines Center in downtown Dallas because of a storm right here in Dallas, as that's where we're emanating live from, that series shifting back to San Francisco. Who you got in that series? GSW for the Golden State Warriors, DAL for the Dallas Mavericks. Once more, I'm giving you some shout-outs. Maria Ramirez, Mavericks coming back. Tristan, Dallas. Bro, Golden State. Maria, Luca. Dallas, MFFL from Brendan. L2 Clouds, Warriors in 5. So you don't think the series is going to come back to Dallas. Desmond M, Golden State. 30 Racks, Golden State. CPCP Warriors. Dominique Mayweather going with Boston. Toxic Tom Downey burner account, Cavaliers. L2 going with the Warriors in 5. As I said off the top, we're going to be talking NBA draft on today's show, taking a look at ESPN's latest mock draft, full first round, and getting you caught up with all of the latest NBA draft rumors. So with that, I ask you this. Who's your favorite player in the NBA draft? My number one option, my number one guy, it's Jabari Smith out of Auburn. Who do you like? Is it Paolo Banchero out of Duke? Is it Chet Holmgren out of Gonzaga? Jaden Ivey out of Purdue? Is it somebody else like Keegan Murray out of Iowa? Somebody else maybe going a little bit later? Let me know right now. Brady Manick from Mario. Really good stretch 4 from UNC. He's going to have to prove that he can play some defense at the NBA level. Shaedon Sharpe from Samuel Weber. Love his game. Reminds me a lot of Bradley Beal. Just has no college tape to base his game off of. Wild guy Rocky going with Ivy. I really like Jaden Ivey. I think he's going to be a really good player. I'm hoping he goes to the Detroit Pistons. Him and Cade Cunningham as a backcourt, that would be a lot of fun. Chet Sealing is hard to pass up on from Gavin Den, but I pass up on the body because I'm really concerned about it. I am rooting for the kid, though. He is one of the most polarizing NBA draft prospects in recent memory. Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets is in the chat, and he's cursing at people, saying that they eat dog poop. Interesting. Chet to OKC from Joseph. A lot of good players in this NBA draft class. We'll see if it can be as strong and as historic as last year's NBA draft class. I am on Twitter and Instagram. It's the same handle on both social media platforms, at Chase_Senior. If you want to give me a follow on Twitter and IG, do so right now, and I'll do my best by the end of the show to give everybody who gives me a follow some shout-outs. I'm going to open up my Twitter page right now, specifically to see who is giving me a follow, at Chase_Senior. Cover the NBA. I cover the NFL. I cover college football and basically do it all here at Chat Sports, keeping you up to date and in the know with all things going on in the sporting realm. If you're ready to start today's show, we're closing in on 100 people watching live. Only 22 likes, though. I don't stand for that slander. Got to get to at least 50 likes before we start today's show. Hit that thumbs up icon, like the video if you're ready to get today's show underway, because I will tell you this, we are locked and loaded with another loaded show. I'm looking at in the chat right now, Dre Baker Sr., 30 racks, Toxic Tom Downey burner account, Joseph Scott, all in the chat. So too is Kyrie Irving, Clayton Lockhart, Richard Lee, Mario Dalvino, Samuel Weber, Wild Guy Rocky. Appreciate all of you for rocking and rolling with us. No matter where you're watching or how you're watching, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. Hit that thumbs up icon and like the video if you're ready to start today's show. 17 more likes until we get to 50, and when we do that, we will get today's show underway. Here's what we have coming up on the docket. We'll hit you with the latest NBA news and rumors. We're going to be doing 2 mailbags where I take all of your NBA-related questions. It can be about the NBA playoffs. It can be about the NBA draft, NBA free agency. Whatever you want to ask me about, you can do so. Just use the hashtag NBA, better yet, Super Chat. If we get a $50 Super Chat, I'll shotgun a beer right here on the show. NBA mock draft roundup. We'll get you caught up on the Lakers head coaching search. Looks like they're down to 3 finalists. Who are they? We'll let you know here in just a little while. And then after our YouTube show wraps up, we're going live exclusively on Rumble. Rumble.com/NBA now. Use that link, subscribe, and get that ready, locked and loaded in the chamber. Therefore, after we do wrap up our YouTube show, we'll pivot over to Rumble only for a special segment, taking a look at some blockbuster trade ideas now that the NBA draft lottery is set. We need 14 likes to get to 50. 109 people watching live right now. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Wild Guy Rocky, he's throwing the strength emoji. Howie Weasel, anybody here in debt? I am. Basically, after I went on a bachelor party in Phoenix over the weekend, my pockets are hurting. Jeff Stamps is already getting his question in by using the hashtag NBA. Who you got in the game tonight, bro? I'll give you that answer. I'm going with the Boston Celtics, and I think they close it out in 6 as well. Producer Jack is rocking his Celtics hat. Spurs fan here from Why So Serious. You love to see it. Clayton Lockhart, my favorite player in the draft is whichever the player the Lakers draft this year. What are you talking about? We weren't invited this year. Well, they don't have a first-round pick. That's what people are meaning by saying that. 8 likes away until we get to 50. Just hit that damn thumbs up icon, like the video, baby. Shout out from Australia from Daniel Saunders. Have some cousins living in Melbourne. That's where my dad grew up. I've been there many times. G'day. Love my Aussie fam. Evan Hinders. Talking about the Bulls drafting Walker Kessler out of Auburn. He'd be a pretty good backup center to give you a little bit of defense. 4 likes away from 50, and then we'll get to everything that's on the rundown right here. Thumbs up icon, smash it, and we'll start today's show as more people continue to pile in. Chua Lore asking about the Warriors. We'll talk about the Warriors throughout today's show. Joseph Scott, quick reminder that the Pelicans are going to be a force to be reckoned with next year. I do agree with that. 3 more likes to 50. Now we got there. Without further ado, we are locked, loaded, ready to rock and roll. Let's tip off today's NBA now, and let's dive into the latest NBA news and rumors. What's good, and welcome in. You're watching NBA Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. Hope all of you out there are having a phenomenal week. NBA playoffs in full session with the Eastern Conference Finals and Western Conference Finals still going on with a couple of really good series as the Dallas Mavericks were able to extend the Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors with a pivotal Game 4 win. And then in the Eastern Conference Finals, deadlocked at 2-2, but It is never too early to take a look ahead to the NBA offseason, especially NBA free agency. So without further ado, let's dive into the latest NBA news and rumors. And we start off with DeAndre Ayton. Is he going to leave the desert? Is he going to leave the Phoenix Suns? A couple of teams expected to be vying for his services in NBA free agency as he looks to secure the bag because he wasn't able to get the bag last summer from the team that drafted him number 1 overall back a couple years ago. Now, Phoenix balked at signing Ayton last year to a 5-year, $170 million contract, and according to Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report, the Suns quietly gauged his trade value in February, including a deal for Domantas Sabonis. And according to some additional reporting, Monty Williams, NBA Coach of the Year, isn't the biggest fan of Ayton because he thinks that he should be further along in his development and isn't the player that they thought he was going to be at this point after getting drafted number 1 overall. Now, as far as DeAndre Ayton, the player, goes, he's very, very good. Is he great? That's the big looming question, and if that's not the case, is he worth great money? Another team in the NBA is certainly going to be willing to pay him great money, but is it going to be the Phoenix Suns to keep this tack and core with Chris Paul as well as Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton? This past year, Ayton, 17 points per game, 10 rebounds, gave you nearly a block per night. He was able to convert on about 63% of his field goals, but I think in big moments, especially in that second round series against the Dallas Mavericks, too often, DeAndre Ayton, given his physical dominance, his play would wane and he would disappear in some of the bigger moments of the basketball games, and that's a big problem if you're looking to give him a max contract. Now, Jake Fisher on the dynamic between Monty Williams and DeAndre Ayton said this: the recent Williams dynamic may simply echo consistent word dating back to the NBA trade deadline from league sources with knowledge of the situation that Ayton is not particularly a favorite of Phoenix's head coach. Williams has purportedly griped about Ayton's waning focus, which some people contacted by Bleacher Report said has often been reflected by the ebbs of his playing time. And that would back up why he's such an inconsistent player, because he does go through ebbs and flows throughout the course of games and playoff series, and the sample size there is certainly lengthy. When you look at possible landing spots for DeAndre Ayton, as I talked about, going to be a couple of teams who are going to be interested in him because he's a really good defender who has switchable ability and can give you something offensively and defensively. He just needs to be a little bit more consistent. Can he? Yes. Is he still a young player? There's no doubt about that, but there are some concerns about his effort and his waning focus. Atlanta Hawks, Detroit Pistons, Portland Trail Blazers, Dallas Mavericks, and Charlotte Hornets, 5 teams, in my opinion, that make a lot of sense. And when you look at a team like the Dallas Mavericks, yes, they were able to extend that Western Conference playoff series against the Golden State Warriors, but defensively, that is a team that does concern me. So I think throughout this offseason, the Mavericks, which were a very good defensive team this past year, are going to look to fortify the front line of their defense, because once guards and wings are able to get past that first and second level of that Mavericks defense, they don't really have that prototypical rim protector and a guy who can run the floor and be that dynamic threat like a DeAndre Ayton or like a Rudy Gobert. So I think the Mavericks could be interested in looking at possibly signing DeAndre Ayton in NBA free agency, or maybe making a trade for Rudy Gobert. That's something to keep an eye out for as we progress throughout the NBA offseason over the next couple of weeks and months. Now, I just broke down 5 teams that I think make a lot of sense for DeAndre Ayton. In your opinion, in your estimation, what is the best destination for DeAndre Ayton? I want to hear from all of you in the comment section right now as I field your answers for the best destination for Ayton. From Ayton to another really good player in Zach LaVine. His decision looming in NBA free agency, set to be an unrestricted free agent. And what's interesting is that if he were to go back to the Chicago Bulls, they can offer him a 5-year deal worth max money. If he were to go to another team, they can only offer him a 4-year contract. Now, up to this point, there have been a couple of teams interested in Zach LaVine, who over the last couple of years has been one of the best scoring wings in the NBA. And he's been ripped off in times for his defense, but going back to the Olympic Games last summer in Tokyo, I thought Zach LaVine actually played pretty well defensively. Now, injuries are a little bit of a concern, especially because he tore his ACL back a couple years ago at the Minnesota Timberwolves and is undergoing yet another knee surgery this offseason. But he's uber athletic. He's super bouncy. He's a three-level scorer who's really a threat to put the biscuit in the basket as soon as he crosses half court. Rumored teams in on LaVine as of now, and these are firm teams that are reportedly showing interest. Portland Trailblazers, the team up with Damian Lillard, as they're in win-now mode, because if you have Dame, you're trying to win right now. The Atlanta Hawks are one of the deeper teams in the NBA. I think that would make sense from a sign-and-trade perspective. That way, LaVine can sign a 5-year deal with the Bulls, get sent to Atlanta, and then the Chicago Bulls can receive some really good players back in return in the San Antonio Spurs. Can you imagine Zach LaVine teaming up with DeJounte Murray and a couple of the other intriguing young pieces on that Spurs team? That could make a lot of sense as well. We talk about the offensive acumen for LaVine. He's been getting it done for a really long time, and I have to give him credit because since coming out of UCLA, he's really grown his offensive arsenal in a pretty impressive fashion. When he was coming out of college, he was looked at as a dunker and a high flyer, a guy who had untapped potential, but the key term there, untapped potential. He's been able to tap into that potential and become a well-rounded offensive player. Nearly 24 points per game in 2018-19. It goes up to 25.5 the following year. 2020-2021, the best scoring output season of his career at 27 points per game, and the shooting splits are always very respectable, hovering between about 46, 45, and 50% from the field, and about 37+% from long range. But that 2020-2021 season was miraculous. Shooting splits of nearly 51% and 42% from downtown. If you get that type of player and the player that Zach LaVine showed when he was healthy last year, you're getting a very, very dangerous offensive threat. Now, I want to test you with this question, Hoopers, because Zach LaVine, he's an all-star caliber player, but is he elite or is he just solid? I want to hear from you, and it's your opportunity to sound off and voice your opinions and your evaluations on LaVine right now in the comment section. E for elite, S for solid. What do you think about LaVine? You let me know. Now, you can watch NBA Now and all of our Chat Sports content on Rumble as well as on YouTube. And right now, we have a great competition going on, just like the NBA playoffs, between NBA Now, Golden State Warriors today, and the Los Angeles Lakers report. As you can see to my right, everybody's so closely tied in terms of followers and subscribers. Let's up our game here on NBA Now just a bit. Let's catch up to Warriors today because this is our flagship NBA program. You see the link at the bottom of your screen. It's rumble.com/NBA Now. Plug in that link in a separate browser as this video rolls. Follow us on NBA Now for more exclusive content. And if you're watching us live, we're going live exclusively on Rumble right after our YouTube show wraps up. To Bradley Beal now. Trade rumors have been hovering around Bradley Beal in the nation's capital seemingly over the last couple of years. But are those trade rumors going to get silenced? Because is Bradley Beal going to stay in Washington, D.C.? He recently said, quote, "It's fair to say that he's leaning toward re-signing with the Washington Wizards. With the Wiz, he can sign a 5-year max contract worth around $246 million. And these trade rumors have been simmering for years. In the lead up to the NBA trade deadline, Bill Simmons had reported that Joel Embiid wanted Bradley Beal over James Harden. Then he had to undergo that wrist surgery, which threw a wrench into the plans. And other really good teams in the NBA have checked in on Bradley Beal over time because they realized this guy is a special player who 2 years ago, before a down year this past year, finished second in the NBA scoring title behind Steph Curry. That's how good he is when he's at the top of his game. Washington Post, on the most recent report on Bradley Beal, he is still leaning towards signing a multi-year deal with Washington worth roughly $250 million in July. And in the meantime, he's focused on his rehab after having his cast removed in late April following season-ending wrist surgery in February. Speaking of that injury, Beal was asked about it. He said he's coming along nicely. Now, who is Bradley Beal? And if he goes back to the Wiz, what are they getting? And if he gets traded to another team, or decides to walk and he goes elsewhere, what is that squad going to get? In my opinion, a guy who can score from anywhere on the floor, is athletic and bouncy enough to get a shot off from anywhere on the deck, and is very, very special when everything is operating. Now, he could certainly use a little bit more help with the Washington Wizards, but as a one-man show, he's been that, a one-man show. 2019 to 2021, 117 games played. That's a large sample size there. Averaged nearly 31 points per game on 47 and 35% shooting splits. But this past year, he really, really struggled. Points per game went down to 23. Field goal percentage went down about 2 percentage points. His three-point percentage struggled, going down from 35 to 30. And his free throw numbers also struggled a little bit. I'll tell you this about Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard for that reason. Their loyalty is impressive. I mean, I'm not sure if they're married, if they have girlfriends, but if they do, their significant others are lucky people because these are really loyal guys who have stayed true to the teams that drafted them. With Damian Lillard, it's the Portland Trail Blazers. With Bradley Beal, it's the Washington Wizards. As a fan of the NBA and as somebody who watches NBA games on a night-in, night-out basis, I want to see the great players play with really good teams on the biggest of stages, and we've been robbed of that with Bradley Beal and Dame to a certain degree because they've been loyal to their franchises, which is awesome, but at the same time, I want to see these guys go to teams where they can make deep runs into the playoffs because I want to see how they play in pressure-cooking environments. If Beal does go back to Washington and he secures the bag, I'm still not ruling out maybe a trade in the future. This guy's still in his prime in his late 20s, and he is indeed a very, very special talent. If you're subscribed to us here at Chat Sports, I want you to let me know by just typing chat in the comment section. For those of you who are subscribed, man, you must be feeling alive as we are approaching 300,000 subscribers. To be exact, up to this point, 234,000 subscribers here at Chat Sports, not including everybody who is subscribed to our team channels, but our NBA coverage really about to get ramped up during the NBA draft and NBA free agency. This will be your one-stop shop for all of the best NBA video coverage on the entire internet. So just get ahead of the game, get ahead of the ball, and subscribe to us now if you haven't already done so by hitting that red subscribe button down below or go to youtube.com/chatsportstv. Is there drama in Brooklyn? Well, anytime Kyrie Irving is on your team, the answer to that question is yes. But could Kyrie Irving be leaving? Potentially. This coming from Christian Winfield of the New York Post. So she got a tip last year that James Harden would leave Brooklyn. That tip ended up ringing true because James Harden forced his way out of his second destination over the span of 2 years. She is now reporting that Kyrie Irving could be next. And if that happens, could Kevin Durant then force a trade at some point after signing a contract extension only last summer? We know by now player empowerment at the NBA level is certainly real, and Kevin Durant is so good and so powerful that he could force his way out of Brooklyn. Winfield also reporting that Durant and the Nets have not spoken since the end of the season when they got dusted by the Boston Celtics and swept away. New York Post on the Nets. In layman's terms, if Irving leaves the Nets, it wouldn't be a surprise if Durant becomes frustrated with the organization's ability to put championship pieces around him. They failed to do so at the beginning of last year with none of their top offseason acquisitions, James Johnson, DeAndre Bembry, or Javon Carter finishing the year in Brooklyn. This is why the Nets' championship hopes hinge on an amicable solution with Kyrie Irving, whose personal decision not to get vaccinated and unpredictable injury history have left the Nets hesitant and now, according to a source familiar with the Nets' thought process, outright unwilling to give him a long-term contract extension. And we know that Kyrie Irving is a pretty sensitive dude, right? If the Brooklyn Nets don't show that they want him, that they value his services, maybe he just decides to hit free agency and go elsewhere and say, KD, I'm sorry, I tried. Now, KD, when you look back on it, him leaving the Golden State Warriors is an all-time bad business move. He had everything that he wanted with the Golden State Warriors, a great culture that is conducive to winning championships, a great coach mention Steve Kerr, who was a great executive with the Phoenix Suns, a great player with the Chicago Bulls and San Antonio Spurs, where he won multiple championships and has turned out to be an excellent coach. You're playing with the most selfless superstar in the history of basketball in Steph Curry, and you have the best defensive player in the NBA on your team as well in Draymond Green and a healthy Klay Thompson, and they draft and develop better than anybody, led by Bob Myers, who's one of the best basketball executives. You had everything you wanted from a basketball perspective with the Golden State Warriors, and you decide to leave for the unknown of the Brooklyn Nets with the unknown of Kyrie Irving, who was never accountable for a fan base that finished last in local TV ratings. KD leaving Golden State, for Brooklyn, an all-time bad business move, and one that we're going to look back on and say, you know what? You cost yourself some championships leaving the Golden State Warriors for the Brooklyn Nets, because 2 years, 2 playoff no-shows for Brooklyn in terms of making a deep playoff run, that ain't going to cut it. Not at all. Will Durant finish his contract in Brooklyn? He signed that contract extension last summer with the expectation that Kyrie would as well, and James Harden. Harden's already out. He's fat, he's old, he's slow, and he's aging, so maybe that worked out well. And Kyrie Irving, he could be next. Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section. Appreciate all of you for rocking and rolling with us. All right, we'll give you some shout-outs here. Dre Baker Sr., trade Durant to Chicago. Ball, LaVine, DeRozan, Durant, and Vooch. Man, that'd be scary. What are you giving up, though? Go back to my Park, N. Timberwolf Taylor, N. If you're a T-Wolves fan, bright future for them. My Holy King, KD, no, he's out. Killer Wolf Kills, Y for yes. Duke Terrace Jean, no. Chua Lore, no. Evan Hinders, is it true A-Rod bought the Timberwolves? Yes, he's part of the ownership group. JaVale McGee to the Raptors. Honestly, that'd be a pretty solid acquisition for them. I'm a fan of the Philadelphia 76ers, and I think that McGee would be a great backup for Embiid. Let's see. What else we got coming in? Charles Rollins. No, he's going back to OKC. Wow, that would certainly be something. Send some ripple effects throughout the entire NBA. Mailbag coming up later. In fact, we're going to be doing 2 mailbags where I'll take all of your NBA-related questions. Few ways for you to get involved. Use the hashtag NBA. Better yet, you can super chat us. All of your donations are greatly appreciated, so feel free to send in any donations that you do have. If you have any questions that you want answered, you can get ahead of the ball by using the hashtag NBA. Better yet, again, super chat us. If you do super chat us, I guarantee you your questions will be answered. 85 likes. Let's get to 100. Hit that thumbs up icon, like the video if you're liking the show. Coming up right now, going to take a look at ESPN's latest NBA mock draft and get to the freshest NBA draft rumors. We ready to rock? Let's get to that right now. Welcome into NBA Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. Coming your way on today's show, going to take a look at ESPN's full first-round latest NBA mock draft and get you caught up on the latest NBA draft rumors. And that's where we start. Jabari Smith, in my opinion, is a number 1 player in the 2021 NBA draft class for a couple of reasons. He has the athleticism that translates to the NBA level. He shot more than 40% from distance last year with Auburn. He can get anywhere on the floor to get his shot off, and he is a 3-level scorer. And everything that I'm hearing about Jabari Smith is that he loves getting in the lab, he loves working on his game, and when I watch him, when I listen to him, he has all of the necessary attributes where I think year in, year out, whatever his weaknesses going into that respective offseason, he's going to exhaust everything that he needs to exhaust in order to become a better player. And that's what you need to do to become a great player in the NBA. And the Orlando Magic might be on that similar wavelength as me, because according to Jonathan Givony of ESPN, it looks as though Orlando going to take Jabari Smith atop the NBA draft when that comes around in June. Givony with this report, while Magic executives have made it clear they will conduct a thorough process, even extending beyond the widely believed top 3 prospects in Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, and Paolo Banchero, most NBA teams firmly believe that's a formality and that Smith is all but assured to become the top pick in the NBA draft. And for me, me, it's easy to see why. I don't want to bet on Chet Holmgren because I have serious concerns about his body. I like Paolo Banchero. I think he has the future of being a Chris Webber type of player with a better three-point shot, but defensively, he scares me a little bit. Jabari Smith is an all-around dude who can do everything on the floor. I'd like to see his handle become a little bit tighter, but again, that's something that he can develop over time. 2021, 2022 with Auburn, he was sensational. 17 points per game, 7.5 boards, so he has a knack for rebounding the basketball and crashing the glass. He connected on nearly 43% of his field goals, but the big figure here, 42%. And when I draft a player number 1 overall, I need to know that they can be a consistent knockdown three-point shooter because wings, three-pointers, athleticism, that wins deep in the NBA playoffs. Before we take a look at ESPN's latest full first-round mock draft, and I offer some of my takeaways from all of those selections, I want to hear from everybody watching right now in the comments section. Is Jabari Smith the best player in the draft? Type 1 for he's the number 1 player, O for other, and if you think it's a different player, let me know who it is down in the comments section. ESPN's latest mock draft, they have Jabari Smith out of Auburn going 1 to the Orlando Magic. Chet Holmgren going number 2 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Paolo Banchero out of Duke to what is an upstart and loaded and young Houston Rockets team. I happen to really like the fit there. Keegan Murray out of Iowa, a stretch 4 who can play a little bit of small ball 5, going number 4 to the Sacramento Kings, and then Jaden Ivey to the Detroit Pistons as they kind of got shafted in the NBA draft lottery. But if they end up with Ivey and Cade Cunningham as their backup over the next 5 to 10 years, they're in a position to succeed and become a dangerous team down the road. Now, my takeaways from these top couple of selections here. The Magic could really become a super fun team if they take Jabari Smith, and I think that's the smartest selection for the Orlando Magic to go with Smith. You look at the young pieces on that roster, there are so many really good players, and you're looking at a future with Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony and Franz Wagner. And how about what Wendell Carter Jr. was able to do following the trade? He's really developed into a really good big man. What happens with Mo Bamba? Can Jonathan Isaac come off of the injury? Orlando Magic could be very, very good. Chet Holmgren, nice fit on the Oklahoma City Thunder because they do such a good job of developing talent. The Rockets are building something special because Jalen Green last couple of months last year was sensational. You add Paolo Banchero to the mix, my goodness. Will the board fall the Kings' way? I don't love Keegan Murray going to Sacramento because I think he has a ceiling to his game, but if the board falls their way, maybe they luck into a really good player. And as I said, Ivey and Cunningham would be electric, especially in transition. Those guys can certainly do it all. Now, who is the best young team in the NBA? We just talked about a couple who were young upstart teams in the association, but the best young NBA team is who? You let me know. I might go with the Memphis Grizzlies. Picks 6 through 10. Shaedon Sharpe out of Kentucky going to the Indiana Pacers. Jalen Duren out of Memphis going to the Portland Trail Blazers. They certainly need an upgrade and a younger player at center. A.J. Griffin reminds me a little bit of Jimmy Butler. If he goes to the New Orleans Pelicans, he can be a nice little scorer off the bench in year 1 for a Pelicans team that I think could cause a lot of noise this upcoming year, especially if Zion comes back. Dyson Daniels out of the G League Ignite. A lot of questions about him and his shooting stroke. Not efficient at all with the G League this past year, but the potential is certainly tantalizing. And then Johnny Davis, arguably the best scoring guard in the country last year, going to the Wizards at 10 out of Wisconsin. I want to focus here on Shaedon Sharpe and just spend a couple of moments on him. Didn't play at Kentucky last year, and because of that, there is no college tape on Shaedon Sharpe. But during the NBA Draft Combine, he was able to display his athleticism and his quickness, and he has the scoring ability of a Bradley Beal and a similar game of a Beal or a Jalen Green. This guy can certainly score on all 3 levels and has a fascinating kind of history, right? Going into his final year in high school, he was about 6'3", 6'4", was unranked. He blossoms up to 6'6" and becomes the number 1 overall player in that high school class. But then he doesn't play at all for Kentucky, and we don't know what this guy can do at an elite level of competition. But there is the potential that Shane Sharp, in my opinion, becomes the best player in the draft because his scoring upside is certainly there, and that is a quality that translates to the NBA level. ESPN on Sharp saying this: Sharp is oozing with talent, possessing elite physical tools with his exceptional frame, length, and explosiveness to go along with dynamic perimeter shooting ability. There was a reason he was a number 1 ranked player in his high school class, but his lack of experience and how little he has been evaluated might make it difficult for a team picking higher than this to roll the dice on him. He has the potential to be the number 1 overall player. He's a little bit too much of a risk, though, to go atop this draft. Do you think down the road, though, with a little bit of development, with a little bit of time and tinkering, that Sharp can be an all-star? I'm fielding your answers in the comment section right now. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. 11 through 15. New York Knicks have to be thrilled at the thought of potentially getting Benedict Mathurin, who I think can be a top 5 player in this draft class out of Arizona. Ousmane Dieng, he played with the New Zealand Breakers. He's from France. This guy has all of the length and size that will remind you of Brandon Ingram, but his shooting splits this past year were not good at all. Has to become more consistent. Mark Williams, a center out of Duke, going to the Charlotte Hornets. They certainly need some additions in that front court alongside LaMelo Ball. Malachi Branham out of Ohio State going to the Cleveland Cavaliers, another one of those intriguing young teams in the NBA at number 14. Then Ochai Agbaji, who played awesome throughout the NCAA tournament. A lot of people are concerned about him as a guy who's a little bit older, but I'll tell you this, man, he can be a very, very good player, and I'm not worried about his age at all. In fact, I think his experience actually bodes pretty well. Knicks fans, you should be elated if Benedict Mathurin is able to fall your way. This guy is lightning quick going sideline to sideline and baseline to baseline. He has a pretty smooth shot that I think is going to develop over time. I'd like to see his handle become a little bit better because sometimes he gets sloppy with it, but you look at what he did last year with Arizona, he was awesome, and he was a human highlight reel. He threw down some highlight reel-worthy dunks that make you say, oh my goodness, this guy has pogo sticks for legs. 17.5 points per game with the Wildcats last year, 5.5 boards. He shot about 45% from the floor with volume and 37%. Pretty comfortable off the catch and shoot. Would like to see him get a little bit better shooting the threes off the dribble. There are a couple of sleepers in this year's NBA draft. One of them that comes to mind for me, E.J. Liddell out of Ohio State. But in your estimation, who is the biggest NBA draft sleeper? Let me know. I also want all of you watching right now to share this video, to let your homies know that Chat Sports and NBA Now is where it's at for the best NBA content, especially covering the NBA draft. So you see that arrow icon that's coming out of the box right on your screen right here? That's the share button. I want you to hit that, select the Twitter icon so that you can tweet this video out, tag me at Chase_Senior, use the hashtag NBA Draft, say whatever you want. If you have a hot take, you have a question, no matter what you do, use the hashtag NBA Draft and tag me at Chase_Senior. You do that, and I'll get back to you on Twitter, and you'll be able to let your friends know that we're breaking it down, talking hoops right here on NBA Now. We're halfway through this ESPN latest mock draft, so we're going to run through all of these remaining selections somewhat quickly. Ty Washington has a basketball IQ that will remind a lot of people of Chris Paul. As a prototypical point guard, this kid has a lot of potential. He goes to the Atlanta Hawks to continue to bolster their depth. Tari Eason out of LSU to the Houston Rockets at number 17 as they continue to add a lot of really good players to their roster. Jeremy Sohan has shades of Ben Simmons for me because from the high post, from the low post, this guy is an excellent passer and has awesome size. Just needs to become a better and more consistent three-point shooter. At least he attempts them. Ben Simmons would never. Nikola Jovic out of Mega going to the Minnesota Timberwolves at number 19, and then Kennedy Chandler out of Tennessee going to the Spurs at number 20. I want to focus here on Jovic, man. This guy is a fun evaluation and a fun player to watch. watch. Excellent size at 6'10", playing in some really small gyms overseas. He's long and athletic, really good feel for the game, which you can't always teach. Pretty solid shooting stroke that I think could translate to him being a solid three-point shooter at the NBA level, and he can hit contested shots. That's another thing that I look for in some of these NBA draft prospects. If you can't hit contested shots, you're not going to get a lot of buckets at that NBA level. Now, because we're talking about him, and we've talked about some international prospects in the past and on this NBA mock draft, where are you watching from in terms of the country that you're watching from? We take a look at the YouTube analytics. We see that people are tuned in from all across America, but all across the globe as well, so shout out your country down below. Picks 21 through 25. Marion Beauchamp out of the Ignite going to the Denver Nuggets at number 21. Blake Wesley is a really exciting player out of Notre Dame going to Memphis. I'm glad that he decided to opt into the NBA draft because I think he could be a steal and some really good value at number 22. Walker Kessler, great rim protector, has a knack for blocking a lot of shots, has extraordinary size, and that's something that the Brooklyn Nets really need because the future of Nicholas Claxton is somewhat in question. I talked about E.J. Liddell being my favorite sleeper in this draft class. If he goes to a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, I think he'll be able to contribute year one. The fact that he went back to Ohio State for his third year and really got better all across the board tells you everything that you need to know. Kendall Brown out of Baylor going 25 to the San Antonio Spurs as they have a couple of first-round selections in this draft. Jaden Hardy out of the Ignite going to the Dallas Mavericks. A couple of mocks do have Hardy going to Dallas, and I'd like to see them get another playmaking guard to really help spell that bench unit a little bit. Trevor Keels out of Duke going to Miami at number 27. Christian Brown out of Kansas, the defending national champions, going to the Warriors. I love that pick. Immediately, he's going to be able to play defense. He already has that corner three, and given that the Warriors are a player development factory, I think Brown could become a very good winning player over time. Bryce McGowan's out of Nebraska going to the Grizzlies at number 29 as they pick up another intriguing young player. And rounding out this mock draft, it's Caleb Houston, forward out of Michigan, going to Oklahoma City Thunder as Sam Presti's armed with his war chest of picks. NBA draft is coming your way in June. We'll have your best NBA draft coverage right here at Chat Sports. So if you're pumped up for the NBA draft, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, and thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Why Big Jordan, Evan Henders, King Malik, Ichigo is watching from USA. What it do? Where are y'all from? Chicago here from Go Back to My Park. Another Warrior steal I see. Hey, you took the words right out of my mouth, brother. London from Dan Loki. Hamilton City, California from Chua. Luka is the best player in the NBA from Yoda. Certainly top 5. You can't argue that any longer with how good he's been in the playoffs, basically averaging a 30-point triple-double night in, night out. B.J. Walton, Jeremy Sohan, and Jalen Williams, the center, both look really good to me. Really like Sohan's game. Had an opportunity to watch him live in the NCAA tournament. Koloko is the sleeper. Lofton just lost weight, bro. Lofton's a fun player, man, out of Louisiana Tech. He's a fascinating prospect who is one of the winners in our NBA Draft Combine winners and losers segment. Kofi Coburn going to shock the world from Jay and Dorian. Kofi Coburn, man, he's built, has a lot of muscle, needs to become a better free throw shooter. Another reminder, I mentioned this off the top, want to remind you all again. Yes, we are live on YouTube, and yes, we are live on Rumble right now, but after our YouTube show wraps up, we're going live exclusively on Rumble. So get ahead of the game, and in a separate browser, go to rumble.com/NBA now and just pull up our show there, because once our YouTube show is wrapped up, after our second mailbag, we're going live exclusively on Rumble as we take a look at 4 blockbuster trade ideas now that the NBA draft lottery is set. So we did our NBA draft roundup. We got you caught up on the latest NBA news and rumors. Next up on the show, we're doing a mailbag. So make sure you use the hashtag NBA or Super Chat us for you to get your questions answered. So much to get to, so let's start unpacking all those questions right now. What's good? Welcome in. You're watching NBA Now by Chat Sports. For all of the real Hoopers who are watching, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. Coming up on today's docket, an NBA News and Rumors mailbag where I field all of your questions as part of our live show. Use the hashtag NBA or Super Chat us for you to get your questions answered from all of our loyal subscribers. We start off this mailbag with this question coming in from CP. Pistons, sharp, but I'll be okay with Murray. Yeah, so you're talking about Shaedon Sharpe or Keegan Murray. Shaedon Sharpe, if he falls to the Detroit Pistons, I'd happen to really like it. Now, I worry a little bit about positions clashing with Cade Cunningham, but I think Shaedon Sharpe has the upside of being the best scorer in this draft class alongside Jabari Smith. As for Keegan Murray, he might be a better fit just because of the positional class questions that I talked about with Shaedon Sharpe and Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is going to have the ball in his hands a lot, and I have confidence in him to make his teammates better around him no matter what. I'm just talking purely fit here, that Keegan Murray at that 4 or 5 spot as a stretch guy who can give you floor spacing, open up some driving lanes for Cade Cunningham. I think he'd be a better fit, but I do like both players indeed. John Holtz, Durant to the Pistons. I don't think Kevin Durant is going to go to the Detroit Pistons. If he were to request a trade to go anywhere, I think Kevin Durant would want to go to a team where he can win an NBA championship. And while I like the young making of this Pistons roster, led by Cade Cunningham and a couple of other really intriguing young pieces, I do not think that Kevin Durant is looking at the canvas of the NBA and saying, okay, let me see what teams I can force a trade to, because he did just sign that contract extension last summer. Let me go to Detroit. I think he'd try to go to a better team that's more well-positioned right now to compete for the Larry O.B. Leighton Horner, how would you handle the Utah situation? It's a really tricky situation, and where there's smoke, there's fire. I think that after not having advanced past the second round with this core over the last couple of years, there are questions about how this core can coexist. In the regular season, they've won a bunch of games, and they've certainly had their playoff moments, but they haven't been able to punch that ticket to the Western Conference Finals. And it's been a long time since they've been able to make a deep run. Now, I think Donovan Mitchell is a great young player in this league. I think if he wants to be considered an elite guy, he has to be better defensively, because my goodness, he was atrocious there this past year, especially in the playoffs where Jalen Brunson was just eating his lunch. So Donovan Mitchell is an offensive player. He's great. I do like their thought process of putting shooters around D-Mitch, but with that, they're not good defensive players, and they continue to get gashed on the defensive side of the floor, and that's why they have so much regular season success, but not much postseason success, because in the playoffs, you need athleticism, you need wings, you need length. You look at all the teams that are left right now, they have all of that. Utah, they don't, and they're bad defensively. When you have Quinn Snyder, though, you have Danny Ainge in that front office, you have a couple of really good young players and elite players. We'll see what happens with D-Mitch and Rudy Gobert. I always have faith that Utah, a smart and well-run organization, can get it right, and I have confidence that they're going to get it right and continue to win basketball games and compete. Evan Hinders, one of our biggest fans here at Chat Sports. Bulls draft Walker Kessler from Auburn. Walker Kessler is a good player. He's a little bit slow for me, but you look at Vucevic, he's a terrible defensive player, and with him on the floor, he gets picked apart often. Now, offensively, he's good when he's playing really well. Unfortunately for him, he had a down offensive year, and it did impact the Chicago Bulls to a certain degree. But as a backup, if you draft Walker Kessler and you find a way to get him, mid to late first round, I think that Walker Kessler can be a good rotational center. I don't think he's an every night starting guy because he's a little bit slow, but as a rim protector, as a shot blocker, he does have elite skills in those areas. If you've been enjoying the NBA playoffs, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. I think the momentum for the NBA playoffs has slowed down just a little bit, but the NBA playoffs have been great up to this point. If you're with me, smash that like button. We move forward in this mailbag with this one coming in from Y Big Jordan. Is it realistic for Kenneth Lofton to fall to 30 so the Warriors can grab him? Yes. I'm not sure up to this point if Kenneth Lofton is a first-round talent. If he is, I think he's somewhere in that range of the very back portion of that first round. Now, when you watch him, obviously he's a little bit pudgy. He's a little bit larger. I think he needs to slim down just a tad. That hasn't affected his quickness up to this point. He doesn't have the body type of a Zion Williamson. He's a little bit more pudgier than Zion Williamson. So I have some questions about how he deals with the rigors of an 82-game regular season schedule than going into the playoffs. But as a guy who can handle it for his size, back some people down, he does give you some flashes of Charles Barkley because he's not the tallest guy in the world. He certainly has the width to him and has a similar game of what Charles Barkley had when he was playing at Auburn when, going into the NBA, he too was considered a little bit overweight. Go back to my park. Ayton to Chicago, 4 years, $131 million, and you re-sign LaVine to a 2-year, $80 million deal with the player option. What do you think? Now, if you're Zach LaVine and you can re-sign with Chicago 5 years, or you can go to another team and sign a 4-year deal. And the difference in money between that 2-year and $80 million deal and what he could sign 4 years or 5 years is astronomical. And even the difference between a 4 and 5 year deal, you're missing out on a lot of money. So I don't think Zach LaVine, given his injury history with the knee stuff, he's undergoing surgery yet again, is going to take a short-term deal. Yes, the average annual value there would be $40 million per year, but I think he wants that long-term security. As far as Ayton, you're paying a lot of money to a lot of these guys, so it'd be tough to give him 131 over 4, and you already have Vucevic. So would you look to trade him away? I'm not sure DeAndre Ayton to the Chicago Bulls makes a ton of sense. I would like the fit because it would make them a better basketball team defensively. Now, summer is right around the corner. It's starting to get warm everywhere in America. You know what that means? That means that it's tank top season and basketball season. I was just on a bachelor party over the weekend in Phoenix, Arizona, where temperatures were around 90, 95, 100 degrees. And we had a couple of jersey outings at the crib as we were playing a little pong, and I was stealing money from cats. And I was able to wear an Allen Iverson tank top jersey. Felt really comfortable, didn't really evade me in terms of shooting my pong shots. So if you want to be like me, get buckets, look good, and rock an NBA jersey, a bunch of great deals right now with the warm weather months right around the corner. NBA jerseys available right now if you use that link at the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/NBA jerseys. There are jersey styles, players for multiple teams, all 30 across the NBA available right now. If you use that link, I'll put that link in the comment section in the description of this video. Jeff Stamps with this. Suns should trade Ayton to the Bulls for Nico and Patrick Williams. So it would have to be a sign and trade because DeAndre Ayton is set to be a free agent. Now, a lot of Bulls fans are calling for DeAndre Ayton. So according to the fan base, they really want Ayton, who I still think is one of the best young big men in the league. Does a deal getting back Vooch and Patrick Williams get the deal done? Maybe. Patrick Williams is an excellent wing defender, and I think that the Phoenix Suns could use a little bit more of that. They were bad last year when Ayton was off the floor because they didn't have a backup center. They had to go with Frank Kaminsky. I thought they were better in that way with JaVale McGee. So I think you'd have to find another way if you bring in Vucevic to fortify that frontline defense just a little bit. Evan Hinders, should Derrick Rose go back to Chicago? It'd be a cool story. It'd be a cool story for D. Rose to go back to Chicago, which is obviously where, he grew up and won the NBA MVP before that string of injury issues really snake bit him. It'd be a cool story for sure, and maybe not a bad bench piece coming off the bench in a pinch to give you some buckets. My Holy King, trade KD for Zion and Ingram. Kevin Durant to the New Orleans Pelicans. That'd be pretty fascinating. But if I'm New Orleans, I'm honestly not doing that deal because I think Ingram, he can be a Kevin Durant type of player. I'm not saying he's on that Hall of Fame trajectory, being one of the best players in the history of the NBA like Kevin Durant has become, but I want to hold on to Brandon Ingram because he's the much younger player who doesn't have the injury concerns that Kevin Durant has, especially at his age. Now, if you're trying to win a championship next year or the year after, maybe, but look, giving up Zion too, that's a lot to give up for KD because of those injury issues, how he's aging. And I love Brandon Ingram and what he was able to do last year. I think the New Orleans Pelicans should keep everybody intact. I think they have something really special brewing right now, and I'd like to see what that young core can do with Zion on the floor with Brandon Ingram. If you're subscribed to us here at Chat Sports, you're a real one. That means that you're helping us get to close to 300,000 subscribers. But if you are subscribed, I want you to let me know that you're subbed to the channel by typing Hooper in the comment section. NBA themed show, Hooper has to do with that. Let's ride. Jason Kreider, do you think that Jalen Williams and A.J. Griffin are the most underrated players in the draft? I like A.J. Griffin. I think people are sleeping on him a little bit. I do think there are some concerns, though, because in high school, he missed 2 years with knee and ankle issues. My pro comp for him has a little bit of Jimmy Butler to his game with a better three-point shot. I think he can be really good. I think people are sleeping on Jalen Williams a little bit. I do think that Kofi Cockburn could be a good rotational center as another guy who people are sleeping on just a bit. And then E.J. Liddell out of Ohio State. If he goes to a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, I think he can be a plug-and-play guy from day one. Duke Terracin Jean, trade LeBron James to the Chicago Bulls. I think LeBron is staying with the Los Angeles Lakers. I really do. I think he's content there. I think that he has so many business ties in the Los Angeles and Hollywood area. That's the mecca for entertainment, and he's really tied his roots down there that he doesn't want to go anywhere. And I think the Los Angeles Lakers are very content with LeBron James because they understand with him on the team, their chances of winning an NBA championship much, much better. Before we hop on out of here in this mailbag, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Our NBA coverage is really about to ramp up with the NBA draft right around the corner, NBA free agency, one of our busiest times of the year here at Chat Sports. So join the family here for the best and most interactive NBA content by hitting that red subscribe button down below or go to youtube.com/chatsportstv. Okay, a lot of people in the chat right now, closing in on 400 people watching live. That's pretty awesome considering we haven't done an NBA Now in a little while. Jason Kreider, Yoda in high school, Why Big Jordan, Jess, all in the chat. So too is Jay and Dorian Stevenson. We're going to be going live on Rumble after our YouTube show. So make sure you just get that link ready, rumble.com/NBA Now, so that you can join us for exclusive content on Rumble only as we take a look at 4 blockbuster trade ideas following the NBA draft lottery, which was officially set last Tuesday. You better be there. Join us, rumble.com/NBA Now. Up next on the show, we're going to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. They are down, reportedly, to 3 finalists for their head coaching gig. Terry Stotts, Darvin Ham, and Kenny Atkinson. We're going to be talking about all of the updates with the Lakers head coaching search coming up next. So if you're a Laker fan, just type LAL in the comment section. And if you're hating on the Lakers, let me know which team you're rooting for. Robert Bruce is back. What up, man? Charlie Barridge, Tari Eason, Dyson Daniels, Jeremy Sohan, and Darion Sebron are going to be beasts. You already got your draft research locked and loaded. Greetings from the Philippines, from Mongasco. Philippines, we love you. Thank you for watching. Gabriel Burton, let's go. Latumba, Charlotte Bobcats. Siakam or no deal from Rafael Lopez. Chua Lore, big fan of the Warriors. Heat Nation here from Jay and Dorian Stevenson. Relax. Producer Jack Lauderay killing the game on the 1s and 2s. Coming up next, we're talking about the Los Angeles Lakers, so let's do that right now. Welcome into the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. We'll get you caught up on everything going down on the Lakers head coaching search, as it looks as though they're down to these 3 finalists to my right. So with that, I ask you this question. If you're Rob Pelinka, if you're Lakers ownership, and you could pick one head coach to be the next head coach of this historic franchise, who are you going with? TS for Terry Stotts, DH for Darvin Ham, KA for Kenny Atkinson. Let me know in the comment section right now. Appreciate all of you for making the Lakers Report a part of your day. I am your host, Chase Senior. On today's show, we're ranking the Lakers head coaching finalists from 3 down to one. And here are the reported finalists who are going to replace Frank Vogel. We're looking at Darvin Ham of the Milwaukee Bucks, Terry Stotts, former head coach for the Portland Trailblazers, Kenny Atkinson, the former head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, now the lead assistant for head coach Steve Kerr. And all three candidates are meeting with the Lakers brass in Los Angeles for the next in-person stage this week. So we are coming down to a situation where the Los Angeles Lakers are honing in their search on these three candidates, and the decision is going to be made over the next several days as to who is going to replace Frank Vogel to be the next head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers to try to get them back to the promised land, leading them with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Shams Charania on this report about the Lakers head coaching vacancy and their ongoing search. The Lakers have interviewed a total of 6 candidates, including Bucks assistant Charles Lee, Raptors assistant Adrian Griffin, and former Warriors coach Mark Jackson. Lee and Griffin have not been ruled out as options as part of the process, sources said. And I think it's really good for the Lakers to cast a wide net. They're looking at young up-and-coming coaches who have fielded some interviews in the past with NBA organizations. And they're going with greener coaches who are under-the-radar targets. And they're also looking at some veteran signal callers, which I think is also smart. You got to get this hire right. It is a pivotal decision for the Los Angeles Lakers to hone in on and pinpoint, because this is LA that we're talking about. 17 NBA championships, and over the last 10 years, they've mostly been a down franchise, only making it past the first round in the NBA playoffs once, and that came in the NBA bubble. So there's pressure on this next head coach to get it right, and there's pressure on the front office to pick the right guy to get the Lakers back to where this fan base expects them to be, which is competing for NBA championships year in and year out, something the Lakers had not been able to do over the last decade. Now, nearly 75% of you who are watching this show right now are not subscribed to the channel, which is really unfortunate. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you love the Los Angeles Lakers, and if you want videos almost every single day. Myself, producer Sam Brown, we've been grinding, we've been hustling to pump out some really good Lakers content covering free agent targets, the head coaching search, all of the latest news and rumors. We cover breaking news as well. We continue to grow like crazy because of all of you and your support. But we need more subscribers if you want more videos, so make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below or go to youtube.com/LakersTV. Now, we talked about the 3 finalists for sure, but what would happen if all 3 of those finalists meet with the Lakers and they say, you know what? I don't like where this organization is trending. I'm out. I'm pulling myself out of the running for this gig. So in case of an emergency, who would the Lakers pivot to next? A nice little list for you here. Number 1, Mark Jackson, former head coach for the Golden State Warriors. We're getting to a situation where, is Mark Jackson ever going to get another shot to be a head coach of an NBA team? He's been a really good analyst for a long time on ESPN, and I appreciate his basketball acumen, his basketball smarts. When he was with the Warriors in the early days of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, won a bunch of games, but the Warriors had failed to make deep runs in the NBA playoffs. But in the regular season, in the playoffs, there were certainly some really good moments for Mark Jackson. And when he was let go and replaced by Steve Kerr, I don't think anybody anticipated that all these years later, Mark Jackson would never get another head coaching job. That situation, that's become a reality for him. Did you want Mark Jackson as a head coach? And do you still want him as a head coach? Type Y for yes, N for no. I'm fielding all of your responses in the comment section right now. Emergency candidate number 2. Adrian Griffin, assistant coach with the Toronto Raptors. Now, Nick Nurse, in my opinion, one of the best coaches in the NBA. And his coaching tree is becoming pretty impressive, pretty vast, and pretty deep. I love the way that the Toronto Raptors carry themselves as an organization. They hone in on player development. They do a really good job of identifying basketball players who they can plug into their system and get better over time. They've become a destination led by Nick Nurse and Masai Ujiri, and they become a place where they're developing some really good coaches in the NBA, and I think Adrian Griffin is the next one. The Toronto tree, it's a win for me. Good culture, good player development, really good playoff outings. Adrian Griffin has been a part of that. At number 3, the other Milwaukee Bucks assistant outside of Darvin Ham, who the Lakers were reportedly also interested in. Now, Charles Lee, I think it's only a matter of time for him. Mike Budenholzer's coaching tree has also been very, very impressive too. And his list of guys who he's been able to develop in terms of his coaching tree, very, very impressive. Charles Lee is the next. At number 4, Quinn Snyder. Now, as of now, he's still the head coach for the Utah Jazz. But we don't know what the Utah Jazz are going to do. Are they going to trade away Donovan Mitchell and or Rudy Gobert? Are they going to hit the reset button, trade those players away, get some young assets back, maybe some picks? And if that's the case, does Quinn Snyder, who has helped lead the Jazz to the playoffs almost every single year in the near decade that he's been the head man with the Utah Jazz, would he decide to want to leave? Maybe. And if that's the case, the Lakers should come a call-in. It looks like Quinn at this point is going to stay put, and the Utah Jazz are a really good and sound organization. He's really maximized the players on that roster over time, and they've been a good basketball team. They just have failed to make it out of the second round of the playoffs, but Quinn Snyder, man, he's done a terrific job as a head coach of Utah. At number 5, Sam Cassell, assistant coach with the Philadelphia 76ers. Look no further than the development that took place from year 1 to year 2 for Tyrese Maxey. Sam Cassell, a big part of that. He has a track record of developing guards with the Philadelphia 76ers and with the Los Angeles Clippers. And you can say what you want about Doc Rivers. I'm sure a lot of Laker fans would love to have Doc Rivers on this team right now, but Sam Cassell has been one of his lead assistants, and he's been credited with a lot of player development. And as a head coach, I think that is very, very important. Sam Cassell, number 5 on our emergency list for Lakers head coaching candidates. Now, summer, it's basically here if you're living in California, and if you're living other places across America, the warm weather months are here, and these hats, they'll do you good when it's warm. They'll do you good when it's cold as well, because they can keep your noggin warm. And there are a bunch of really good hat deals thanks to our friends at Fanatics. If you use that link at the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/Lakers hats. Some of these hats available for up to 60% off. You can go dad hat style. You can go with the New Era fitted. You can go black hat, purple hat, whatever you want. It's available. Chatsports.com/Lakers. Lakers hats. Just use that link so that deals do apply for you. Now we're going to rank our Lakers head coaching hot board. These are the 3 finalists, and I want to rank them from 3 to 1, and then take a look at the pros and cons that come with hiring all of these candidates. At number 3, Terry Stotts, former head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. The pros for hiring him. He by far has the most experience among these finalists. With the Blazers, made the playoffs 8 of 9 years, has a really strong offensive acumen, and worked really well with Damian Lillard. The cons of hiring him: only made the conference finals once back in that 2019 season. They got dusted by the Golden State Warriors. Wasn't the best with adjustments, which I think can get exposed throughout the course of a playoff series. He would need defensive assistance because his offensive acumen is his specialty. And have we seen his ceiling already? Has he maximized his coaching ability? Maybe. For me, I've always said this about Terry Stotts. He's never really moved the needle, in my opinion. He's like the offensive Frank Vogel. You're like, kind of a mundane hire, right? Frank Vogel, his specialty defense. Terry Stotts, his specialty is offense. I want somebody who's a little bit younger, a little bit more energetic, and for me, Terry Stotts doesn't fit that mold. What coach, though, would you prefer as the viewer? O for offensive, D for defensive guy? Let me know in the comment section right now. Coming in at number 2, and for me it's really close because I like Atkinson and I would think about hiring him. Kenny Atkinson, assistant coach with the Golden State Warriors. The pros for hiring him: he's a grinder. He's a hustler. He's known as a smart and tireless worker, demands respect in the locker room, which I think is really important, especially if you're coaching LeBron James and Anthony Davis. He developed players pretty well with the Brooklyn Nets and really instilled a culture, was really big into analytics and sports science, which I think nowadays is important, and I'm sure that's something that the Golden State Warriors use at their disposal as well. He's since coached with Steve Kerr and Tyronn Lue. Last year he was with the Clippers, then he came over to the Golden State Warriors. So adding that to his coaching resume, I think, does him wonders as well. The cons of hiring him, somewhat of an up-and-down tenure with the Brooklyn Nets. He can be a bit unyielding at times, has an unconventional style on the court with some of that analytical input. And is he the right guy for a guy like LeBron James and Anthony Davis? It's one of those questions you don't know the answer to until you actually hire that guy. Atkinson, for me, is a quality ball coach. The Brooklyn Nets were not a desirable destination before he went there, and I think he helped turn them into a desirable destination. And actually, I think Brooklyn would have been better off if they kept him and they didn't hire Steve Nash. At number 1, Darvin Ham. I'm excited about the prospects of him being named the next Lakers head coach. LeBron James really wants it. He has familiarity with the Lakers organization. He was an assistant coach back several years ago. He's energetic. He played in the NBA, which earns him some chops with some NBA players, and he already knows the ropes of the NBA game as a coach because he's been doing that for a long time, as well as an NBA player. Because of that, he can relate with guys and earn some respect. And according to reports, he is the guy that LeBron James wants, which is why he's a leader in the clubhouse right now. Cons, I don't think there are many of them outside of the inexperience. He's got some unknowns as a rookie head coach. Shortest resume among the finalists, that's for sure. Strong all-around coach, but what exactly is his specialty? Versatility is good. I have it here at Chat Sports, and it proves me well. But sometimes people can look at being all-around and well-rounded as kind of being a weakness because you can't hone in on one specialty. He's coached stars, though. He can handle Los Angeles, in my opinion. He is bold. He is confident. He has a little bit of swagger. He's coached Giannis. He's coached some really good players with the Atlanta Hawks, and that Mike Budenholzer coaching tree, it's long, it's vast, it's deep, and it's impressive. So once more, I want to pose this question for the audience. Pick a head coach. If you're Rob Pelinka in this front office, who you riding with? TS for Terry Stotts, DH for Darvin Ham, KA for Kenny Atkinson. Let me know. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/LakersTV, or even easier, just hit that red subscribe button down below as we continue to push out videos almost every single day right here on the Lakers Report. Okay, we'll give you some shout-outs here. The Gold Eagle 99, Jabari 340, Charlie Barrage, Gabriel Burton, Dan Loki. What a great NBA enthusiast. Are you talking about me? My goodness, what a great compliment right there. King Higgins going KA, as he's a big Kenny Atkinson fan. Change channel, what up? Don't change the channel on us. Chualor, Darvin Ham, Kenny Atkinson from Michael Panza. Appreciate your feedback right here on the Lakers Report and on NBA Now. Another reminder, we're going to be going live exclusively on Rumble right after our next mailbag, and it's a segment that you don't want to miss. Looking at 4 blockbuster NBA trade ideas now that the NBA draft lottery is set. Stay tuned for that as we're going live exclusively on Rumble right after the show. You can just plug in that link right now, rumble.com/NBA Now. Therefore, when we sign off of YouTube, you'll be able to switch over right to there, and you'll be able to join us as we have a couple of people already watching us live on Rumble. And if you get into the comment section, we'll, of course, give you some shout-outs. I'm also looking at my Twitter page to see if anybody gave me a follow. Jermaine Howard, good looks to you, man. Appreciate that follow. That is awesome to see. Going to be doing another mailbag coming up here in just a few moments. Use the hashtag NBA or Super Chat us. We need some more questions coming in. That's what producer Jack is telling me. Hashtag NBA or Super Chat us. Seymour Pape, prayers to the lives lost yesterday. So sad for them young kids, man. No doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. It is heartbreaking. It is gut-wrenching to see young kids lose their lives at school, and to the monster that pulled off that horrific crime. Awful, 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 awful. How do you do chat at Rumble? Well, rumble.com/NBA Now. You make an account, you'll be able to go right into the comment section, Chua. That's how you do it. Hashtag NBA Super Chat. That's how you get your questions answered But we need some more questions fielded in the comment section right now to do this mailbag. Otherwise, we might just decide to cut off the stream. We answered some really good questions earlier on today's show. We want to be doing another mailbag, though, and we want to answer some more of your questions. Why wasn't the school in shutdown mode? Unreal. They actually were. They tried to take down the gunman, but he was armored up, so they weren't able to take him down. Unfortunate. Prayers to all the families involved. Okay, NBA mailbag coming your way right now on NBA Now. Stay tuned for that and get those questions in. What up, Hoopers? You're watching NBA Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Sr. NBA playoffs continue to roll on in what has been a riveting NBA playoffs up to this point, but it's never too early to look ahead to the NBA draft and NBA free agency and some NBA trade ideas. I'm taking all of your questions right now here on the show, so let's get to it. Okay, we start off with this question coming in from Charles Rollins. Do you think that Lindy Waters is going back to OKC? Lindy Waters. Potentially. Yeah, we'll see. College basketball at Oklahoma State. Looking at his numbers right now, with what he was able to do this past year, 8 points per game, 3 rebounds and an assist, a PER of 13, a rookie last year who was able to get some decent playing time. Last 10 games, 22 minutes per night, almost 13 points per game. That is pretty impressive. And OKC has been a very good player development factory over time. Lindy Waters, yet another guy who they've been able to develop in really impressive fashion. A couple super chats coming in. The Gold Eagle 99, $20 super chat. Damian Lillard for Kyrie or Ben Simmons for a player like Jaylen Brown or Jalen Green. I don't think the Houston Rockets are going to part ways with Jalen Green. I think he is going to be the focal point of their young team. I don't think they're going to deal him. I also don't think the Boston Celtics are going to trade away Jaylen Brown. Why would you? Eastern Conference Finals, they're able to make Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum work. I know a lot of people have said, look, if you lose to a down Miami Heat team that's dealing with some injuries, then maybe you should break it up. I disagree. I think the Celtics are well positioned to be one of the Eastern Conference best teams over the next several years, and Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, a big reason for that. Damian Lillard for Kyrie, if I'm Portland, I would never do it. I know what I'm getting with Dame. I never know what I'm getting Kyrie. And for Ben Simmons, I don't think he has much trade value now. $10 super chat coming in from Michael Fernandez. You are important, Chase. My guy, I really appreciate that. I don't see myself as all that important. I just talk sports on the daily covering the NBA and NFL, but I do greatly appreciate that support and the kind words, Michael Fernandez. I know you've been one of our biggest supporters and one of my biggest supporters, so I do greatly appreciate that. And if you think I'm important, that is absolutely awesome. It means that we're doing the right thing here at Chat Sports and we're having an impact. Bro football and basketball. Collins for Brogdon. I imagine you're talking about John Collins for Malcolm Brogdon. So that would be a trade between the Indiana Pacers and the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks are in an interesting situation right now because they're going into an offseason after having a pretty frustrating out in the first round to the Miami Heat. And they're a pretty deep roster, but they weren't good defensively this past year. And honestly, they weren't consistent enough considering all of the talent that they need and all the talent that they have. So I think the Atlanta Hawks do need to make some changes on that roster. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think they have the players to move in order to get some pretty good players back to continue to build around Trae Young. Trae Young is such a unique talent. Not everybody can play alongside him. So they do have some big roster decisions to make. Malcolm Brogdon, I wouldn't hate the fit. I just worry about his injuries, man. Malcolm Brogdon for a long time has been a very, very good guard. He's also been injured almost every single year since winning Rookie of the Year with the Milwaukee Bucks. And John Collins going back to Indiana, you pair him up with Miles Turner, it's a pretty damn good front court right there. So, yeah, that's a trade that I could see happening, and the money does work for both of those players because both last year signed contract extensions throughout NBA free agency. Speaking of NBA free agency, I want to hear from you in the comment section right now. Name an NBA free agent that people are sleeping on. Get creative, and I want to hear from you, so drop a name or names in the comment section right now. Amish Abe, what's good, brother? What are the Bulls going to do with Lonzo? They seem to be pretty concerned about that knee injury, which really sucks because when Lonzo Ball went to Chicago, I love that free agent acquisition. I don't even care if there was some tampering there. That free agent acquisition was really good by Chicago. He fit really well on that roster. And when he was playing and healthy, and when Zach LaVine was healthy, playing with DeMar DeRozan, who for much of the year was an NBA MVP candidate, and they didn't get to see really what they could do with Patrick Williams, who I think is a stud wing defender. And then with Vucevic, that team was really, really good. Then they suffered all these injuries to their starting unit and their bench, and we couldn't see what Chicago was truly about and how good they could have been. So it's a shame what's happened to Lonzo. I hope that he's able to figure out that knee injury because he's a really good player, and when the Chicago Bulls are playing well, the NBA is in a better spot. Another $10 Super Chat from the Gold Eagle 99 as the Super Chats continue to pile in. You love to see it. Okay, how about this? Ben Simmons for Colin Sexton and Karis LeVert. That'd be interesting because it would bring Karis LeVert back to Brooklyn. And if you're Brooklyn, you need some playmaking guards, right? Now, what happens with Kyrie Irving? I'll respond to that question with that. If you lose Kyrie Irving, that trade could make sense, and then maybe you could target yet another superstar. You would have to sign Colin Sexton to a long-term deal. I think that would make that trade make some sense. But if you just don't believe in Ben Simmons and you think that he's a damaged asset and you think that he's a flake and you don't think that he can tap into his ability and you think that he's tapped out as an offensive player and you want to trade him away and you can get Colin Sexton and Karis LeVert back, it's a pretty good haul. And then for Cleveland, if they get Ben Simmons, the all-NBA caliber defender, he doesn't have to really do much offensively with how well Darius Garland played this past year, Isaac Okoro, as well as Evan Mobley. I think Ben Simmons had actually fit really well on Cleveland. That's a pretty good equal trade for both sides, Gold Eagle. That's a good job by you. Maybe you can be an NBA executive at some point in the future. NBA playoffs continue to roll on. So with that, who do you think is going to win the NBA title? Predict it for me and let me know in the comment section. You can also watch NBA Now and much of our Chat Sports content on Rumble. And we have a great competition going on between three of our NBA channels on the Rumble side of things. NBA Now is our flagship show, but we're losing the Golden State Warriors today. So shout out to Dub Nation for really rallying. More than 2,100 followers and subscribers. NBA Now, north of 2,000. With this video, though, can we catch up to Golden State Warriors today? Let's try to do it. How do you do it? Rumble.com/NBA Now, and then that green follow button, which is basically the same color as that bottom bar. You hit that. Let's catch up to Golden State Warriors today and distance from the Lakers report. True allure with this one. Do you think the Warriors need to draft Kai Soto? Man, Kai Soto to the Warriors would be fascinating because a lot of fans have been calling for the Warriors to pick him. He's an intriguing player who is absolutely massive. Funny enough, he's from the Philippines, and the Warriors fan base has a bunch of fans from the Philippines. I know that because I look at the analytics on our Warriors channel, youtube.com/WarriorsTV. Kevon Looney has really become an unsung hero for the Warriors over time. Let's say the Warriors win another championship. Kevon Looney has been the starting center for all of those championship teams pretty much, outside of when Andrew Bogut was there back several years ago, right? Kai Soto is a backup center. I wouldn't hate taking a chance on him in the second round. He has extraordinary size, 7'2", 232 pounds, and I know on Golden State Warriors today, that video would certainly pop. So I'm interested in Soto for sure for Golden State because I know that they do such a great job of developing players, and I think they'd be able to develop Soto into a pretty good rotational guy. Antip, who should the Bucks trade for to improve? I thought it was a little bit of a mistake trading away Dante DiVincenzo. I think they missed some wings and some depth in that series against the Boston Celtics. I honestly think that roster is in a pretty good position, honestly. I mean, they're pretty deep. You get back Chris Middleton, and if that's the case, do the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Boston Celtics with Chris Middleton? They could have used another really good score outside of Giannis, so I think you get back Chris Middleton, and the Bucks will be just fine. Nick Herrera, Marcus Smart and his trade value. He doesn't have any trade value because Boston will not trade him. Basically, his trade value, he is untouchable. He's not getting dealt. Defensive Player of the Year. When he's been on the floor, the Celtics are a different team. When he hasn't been playing, the Celtics certainly miss his leadership. They miss his dog mentality. They miss his toughness. And honestly, I have to give props to Marcus Smart. I had some questions about how he was going to be able to play point guard after not having ever played prototypical point guard. Played really, really well. And he won Defensive Player of the Year. Good job by him. Celtics ain't trading him. He is part of the fabric of the Boston Celtics. Looking into next year, Marcus Smart was the Defensive Player of the Year. But who do you think is going to be the NBA MVP next year? Let me know down in the comments section. I'm looking at Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum as taking those next steps. Dennis Henman, what's the biggest surprise player you could see getting traded this summer? Man, could Ben Simmons never play a game for the Brooklyn Nets? I think he could get dealt. Maybe John Collins could get traded as well. James Harden off a sign-and trade. Bradley Beal maybe. Those are some surprise players who could get traded. Dennis, way to make me think. I appreciate it. Darius Ralston. Will OKC make a blockbuster trade with the second pick? Maybe, but look, you look at the timeline for that team. You have the franchise pillars right now in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey. You have Lou Dort. You have a couple of other really good young pieces, and let's say that you can land a Jabari Smith, a Paolo Banchero, a Chet Holmgren. I don't think you want to trade that pick away because you're not expected to win next year or the year after that. You're building for a couple of years from now. OKC, man, look out. They're going to be a dangerous team in about 3-5 years. That guy, Pal, do you think Russell Westbrook is washed? I do, and I think he's been washed for a little while. His numbers continue to go down. He's lost just a little bit athletically, and the game has passed him by to a certain degree, which has been somewhat sad to see. But Russell Westbrook, inefficient offensive player, has never really been a great shooter. He plays a maddening and reckless style of basketball that I don't think is conducive to winning long into the playoffs, and he's been his worst enemy. What makes him great is his intensity and his competitiveness. That also makes him bad too because he's always going for the kill shot and he never knows when to slow the game down or slow his internal clock down. If you made it this far in this video, first of all, I greatly appreciate you. But I also want you to show us that you made it this far in this mailbag because this is the end of the mailbag. Type me. We'll go back and give you some love and give you some shout outs in the comment section. Okay, in just a few moments, we're going to be going live exclusively on Rumble, where we take a look at 4 trades that could happen after the NBA draft lottery has been set. We'll do a little bit of a build-up segment to kick off things on Rumble, but for everybody watching right now, join us live on Rumble as we'll be live for another 10 to 15 minutes on the Rumble side of things. You see that link down below, rumble.com/NBA now. Just plug in that link in your browser or however you're watching, and you'll be able to join us exclusively on Rumble. What'd you say, Jack? Yes, the link for Rumble is also in the chat right now. If you click that, you'll be able to join us. Dan Loki, what is Rumble? It's another video platform. You click the link, you'll be able to find out. It's another video platform where sometimes we put exclusive content on there, and sometimes we put content on Rumble that you cannot watch on YouTube, like our next segment, our top 4 NBA trades following the NBA draft lottery. So with that, appreciate everybody for watching us on YouTube. Join us on Rumble. We'll be live for another 10 to 15 minutes. I expect to see all of you there, so join us on Rumble right now.